Well, finally, after almost exactly 2 months, here I am. I'm so sorry it took so long. I finally got my act together and here I am, and I've got a lot to share. So let's see how it goes. If I can't talk anymore, I will take a break, and then you can also take a break, or I will make 2 episodes if I see I have too much to share, because I sometimes feel that I rush through projects because I want to fit everything in. So let's see how it goes. I'm Adela and I live in South Africa, and I'm trying to do this episode before it gets all cloudy and dark and stormy and rainy once again, because we do get a lot of rain and thunder and hail and wind. It's really, the weather is very stormy. Let me just say that it's very interesting because my maiden name, my surname was Storm, Storm in Afrikaans. So at school, there was a lot of jokes made about my name, Adela, that people struggle to pronounce, and with my surname. But I recently heard about a designer with the surname Storm, and I actually wanted to go and check it out, and I can't remember on which podcast I heard about her. Sometimes I'm listening to a podcast for a little while, and then I go off and do something, and I completely forget to check some of the things I wanted to check that I heard on that podcast. So if you ever come across a designer with a surname Storm, please let me know. I think it's also, I think there's Germans, a lot of Germans maybe with that surname as well. So I think there's only one descendant, one person that came to South Africa with that surname. I think there were two brothers, but the one passed away before he had any children. So there was only the one Storm that actually had a family. So we are all descendants of that one person in South Africa. But that's completely beside the point, and I don't know why I said that, because it wasn't in my planning or in my notes. Not that I do make notes, a lot of notes, but it was not in my planning to really say that. It was just the stormy weather that we are having at the moment that got me thinking about that. But let's get into it. I've got quite a few finished objects because it has been 2 months. And as I promised, I said that I will wear my lovage today. So it has been hanging on a hanger against the cupboard for more than a month, I think. And I'm looking at it, and I'm feeling very proud of it. And I'm actually wearing it. It's quite hot and humid, so I don't think I will be wearing it too long. But I don't feel like I'm dying at the moment with it on. It's quite breathable. I've talked so many times about it in previous episodes, so I'm not going to repeat everything. Otherwise, it's just for people that's been watching all my episodes, that can get a little bit frustrating. And that's one thing that I didn't say. Welcome to everyone. Welcome to my channel, Yarn Creations. And here I talk about everything yarn related at the moment. There's not time for anything else. Otherwise my episodes will be 3 hours long. So this is my lovage. I turned it around. It's by Marie Wallin. I knitted it top down. It's actually bottom up. I think all Marie Wallin's designs are bottom up. I am not comfortable with knitting bottom up sweaters because I feel that I'm not sure how long to make the yoke. And my gauge was not the same, my row gauge was not the same as hers on the pattern, so that might have been an issue. I feel that knitting top down, I can fit it more often and see exactly where I want to maybe put the sleeves on hold and continue with the body of the sweater. I did have to take the sleeves off before she said to do that, and I think that's mostly because of my row gauge, and I think her yoke on the lovage is very deep. The design is like that it is very deep. So here it is. I love it. And I'm wearing it with my Sycamore wrist warmers. I'm not sure if I'm completely sold on what I did here, because I did a 3/4 sleeve so that I can wear the Sycamore wrist warmers with it. That's also a pattern by Marie Wallin, and that is the kit that I bought in Norway that I've talked about many times. So I used the rest of the kit of the Britishbreeds, and then I added some Arbon Yarnadelic that I bought from Coloursofamalfi. A little bit of color, added color, and then mostly this base color, the ordinary Joe. And it's a lovely color, and it blended in very nicely with the natural color of the Britishbreeds, because that I could use it for only a little bit, and then I had to use the ordinary Joe of Yarnadelic, and it blended in quite well. So I'm quite happy with that. I'm happy with the fit. I think I explained, I did, let me see, I've got a few notes here. My beginning, I think I did start with the, now I have to think very, I think I did start, now I can't remember anymore because it was so long ago, but I'm sure I mentioned it months ago when I started this, months and months ago. But I started with the smallest size to get a higher neckline, and I don't think the pattern has short rows, so I did short rows, but I did the short rows in the neck ribbing so that there's an even or a nice color work, where you start with a color work, that there's an even nice neckline. So, and then I did more increases to get to the size that I wanted to knit. If I know there's not a lot of sizes, but if you want to knit it and you need a bigger size, then you can always just maybe knit with a little bit of a looser gauge. Then you will easily get a bigger size. But I didn't start, I started with the smallest and then went up to one size bigger, and then did my increases. And then of course I always do A-line shaping, but I had to do it after the color work. So I did quite a lot of increases to get an A-line shape after the color work was done. I hope that's not too confusing. I always, what I did with this, my beginning of round is to the side. It's not in the back, right in the center of the back. I think it's less obvious if you move it to the side, almost when you will be doing a raglan, almost on that line. I put my beginning of round, but at the back. And then when I'm done, when I've put my sleeves on hold, I move the beginning of round to below the sleeve, below the armhole, and then I just continue knitting with my beginning of round there. And I've never found that few stitches that you move it makes a difference on the fit. And of course now I added this to the Another Year of Marie Wallin knit along that Nikki of Knitting with Cat Hair is hosting. And Nikki has knitted quite a few Marie Wallin designs, and she's busy with some lovely ones as well. And she's quite an inspiration for me, and I admire her aesthetics and how she knits the Marie Wallin patterns, and it's very inspiring to me. And it's very nice to be part of a community that also wants to knit, or a community wants to knit the same type of projects or garments. It's always inspiring and it's motivating. So Nikki is hosting, she had till I think the 1st of August this year. She had a year with Marie Wallin knit along, and I think this year it's another year of Marie Wallin knit along or make along. Please forgive me, Nikki. I will look it up and make sure and put the correct hashtag below this video. And that is running from, I think, till, I'm not sure, middle of next year, I'm sure. So I'm really going to try and do another Marie Wallin design. I think I showed it in my previous podcast, the beta, and I want to do that. It's a steeked, I'm going to steek it. It's a cardigan, and I think the pattern is in a front and a back and sleeves, but I'm going to try and knit it in the round with sticks. We'll see how that goes. And I'm going to use Rowan felted tweed. So let's see how that goes. But I think for me to breathe more comfortably, I'm quickly going to pause this and then just get rid of my very comfy warm sweater that is not ideal for warm, humid weather. That's much better. I'm wearing the raglan tee. It's just a freestyle recipe that I've put on Facebook about in September last year when I knitted my first one. I knitted this one in December as an Advent project. I didn't knit one color a day. I think I knitted a certain amount of rows each day, but I did use mostly a 12-day Advent that I had from Thereza Yarn Creations. I did add some yarn from Knottyhabit, and I think there is a little bit of yarn that I dyed myself. It's the 4-ply fingering, 100% merino, 400 meters on 100 grams, and it's a very nice base to knit with, and it's very nice for I think it's one of the yarns that you can use for a summer raglan or whatever kind of summer tee you want to knit, because it's yeah, it's not that heavy. It creates a comfortable fabric. So I just knitted it in stripes, and then a little bit of the color on its own, and then some stripes again. I think it was 2 row stripes, and the raglan increases was just a knit yarn over knit. It's one that I learned from Julie of Julie Knits in Paris. She's got a pattern, whatever sweater, it's just a recipe as well, and she gives different raglan increases in that recipe. It's worth buying it just to get a general idea of how you can just freestyle your own raglan sweater. If it's for winter, you just start with much less stitches, and then for summer you just cast on. I usually cast on with a fingering weight about 140 stitches, and I find that quite comfortable. And the basic for a raglan, if you don't want to go into much detail of fitting, is just a third for the front, a third for the back, and a third for the sleeves, and then that you divide in half. So a 6 for the one and 6 for the other sleeve, when you divide after you've done some ribbing or whatever. And then you just do the increases, the raglan increases, until you see that it's deep enough, and then you split for sleeves, take the sleeves, put the sleeves on hold, and then knit the body. And sometimes I forget to mention that I always do an A-line, always. That's just the way I'm built. And if I how can I put it? Say for instance, I knit a bottom up, and I start with the amount of stitches. If I go according to the amount of stitches for the bust measurement, it will be too tight around my hips and around my bum. So I'm not the same size. I think more than 10 centimeters. There's more than 10 centimeters difference between my bust size and my hip size. So I always have to do A-line increases, otherwise it will be too big here if I use that amount of stitches, or it will be too small, it will be too big here if I use the hip size, or it will be too small here if I use the bust size. I'm not sure if this is going so well, but I'm just going to keep on it. So yes, this is very comfortable, lots of positive ease. Like I think a wool or any kind of knitted fabric is just more breathable if there is some positive ease, if it's not clinging to your body. That's what I feel, and I feel much more comfortable in something with positive ease. I like casual clothes, and I like to dress casually, so this is just perfect for me. So let's go on to all the other finished objects. So that was my first finished object, was the LOVAGE. And what I forgot to mention is that there's a very nice, one of the makers on Ravelry she's called Elena of Knit Today. She gave detailed notes on her project page for knitting it top down. It really, it's 3 pages of notes. So I will try and find that and link it below as well. Everything, if I don't link something, I will give a description of the yarn I'm using and the pattern I'm using. But for something like this, I think it will be easier if I link it for you to find it, because when you try to Google it or search it, it's not always that easy to find it. But I'm a bit lazy to put in all the links in the description box. That's just me. So it takes me almost a whole day to set everything up and record and get it ready and upload it onto YouTube. So if I can spare half an hour or an hour in editing and finding links and all that, I'm happy. So yes, I will try and link her project page, because it's perfect, detailed, if you want to see what she has done to turn a bottom-up sweater into a top-down sweater. And if you have done that, if you have knitted a few top-down sweaters, it's actually not that difficult. So the other 2 projects that I've finished, or items that I've finished, I think I showed this last time, was my mold SOPHIESCARF. So I started with this light color, and then I just added another color. So I used 2 strands of merino lace singles throughout, and then I just added and I alternated a few rows. I think four times that I knitted with the old combination and then the new combination, and then I just cut the one color and then just continue with the new combination, and then I added with this darkest color. And it's actually, this one is longer than the first one I did, because I didn't have that much yarn. So this one I can actually tie around my neck to the back, and then tie it like this. And I find that also will be maybe quite comfortable for winter and give some extra warmth. But I can also just tie it once, but then it will be just a longer scarf. Doesn't matter. I see some people make a double knot. It actually matches what I'm wearing, but this is now for summer and this is for winter, so I will never wear it together. So this is the one SOPHIESCARF. It's a pattern by PetiteKnit. And then I I had this beautiful wishbone merino linen singles that I wanted to use, and I tried to do one in just one color brioche. So if you're familiar with one color brioche, you can just use the same, you can use the SOPHIESCARF and do the increases, start the same way. That's what I did. I start the same way, and I did, for the increases, you do a knit, yarn over knit in one stitch. So if you're familiar with brioche, then it will be easy for you to do something like this. And I think I did the increases every 10 rows. So I just counted my V's, and I think when I had 6 V's. That's including the one that of the previous increase. So it's the one in V from the increase, and then 5 extra V, the stitches, V stitches. Then I did an increase again. And the same then with the decreases. So I did increases. It's not that wide. I don't, not one of my Sophie scarves are as wide as in the pattern. I wanted narrower ones. I might at some stage just continue increasing and make it a little bit wider, but I quite like the narrow ones, so just it's not that wide, so I just do the increases until I think it's wide enough, and then I just knit it straight until it's long enough, and then I do the decreases. And the same with this one. I think the pattern does increases until it's the width that a certain amount of stitches, and then you immediately start with the decreases. But with this one as well, I did increases, and then I did quite a long stretch of just straight knitting and then some decreases. So mine is a little bit different, as is my usual way of doing things. And then I've got 3 big projects that has been finished. The one I showed you last is the STELLA shawl. That is a pattern by Julme Conradie of my square hat. And I used 2 wools. Just the Scheepjes wool, and the one is called, let's see where, Blackcurrant Squeeze Me, and the other color is called Sea Breeze Tease, and that's exactly the 2 colors that Julme used in the shawl that she crocheted for the pattern when she designed it. I already had the one, so I just bought the other one. So here is mine, and it is big. I just kept on going until I used up all the yarn. See if I can, it's big, and that is how I wanted it. And it's got a lovely drape, and it sits so nicely. It's really one of those shawls that for our summers are perfect, because it's a blend of cotton and acrylic, so it's quite lightweight. It's not a it's a lightweight yarn. There's 1,000 meters on 215 grams. So it's more than 400 meters on 100 grams. 460, I think I worked out. I'm not sure, I can't remember. But it really feels very nice on, and it's big and comfortable and just how I wanted it. So I'm very happy with this. I know this, I've said before that I don't do the modern way of using a shawl, of having this massive amount of fabric on the front. I don't see, it just doesn't work for me. I wanted to, for me, a shawl has to keep me warm around my back and my shoulders and my arms, because I will probably be wearing, say, a short sleeve top like I'm wearing now, and then when you sit outside in the evenings, or even if there's a cool breeze during the day, then this is just perfect to wear. So you can drape it and maybe pin it if you don't want to be bothered by an end that falls off all the time, then you can just pin it. But because it's so big, it kind of sits where you put it. It's not, if it's smaller it will fall off all the time, but if it's big like this, it just yeah, it just covers you up. It's like a small blanket, and I'm so happy with how this is finally done. It's a lot of crocheting. I think the pattern calls for a 3.5 millimeter. I used a 3.25, but I do crochet a little bit looser. I find it, I've got a knife grip, and I'm not a tight crocheter, so I found it easier to use the 3.25, and I really like the fabric that it created. It's very drapey, and I'm very happy with it, really. If you ever want to crochet something, if you're a knitter and you want to crochet something, I will recommend this pattern, because the fabric that it creates is almost like a knitted fabric. So it's, I think there you can quite get the colors that so you work with both the colors all the time. So you do, it's almost like, I can say it's almost like brioche. You crochet with the one color, and then you leave that color, and then you go back and you do the same row with the other color, and then you turn around. So yes, I'm very happy with this STELLA shawl by Julme Conradie, and it's very drapey and just perfect. So I was thinking, I was very inspired by Nikki, that uses the term of spreading the love a little bit, and I really want to do something like that, not always, but try and remember to do it from time to time. So I was thinking that I would gift someone this pattern, the STELLA shawl pattern by Julme. So if you are keen on, if you don't have the pattern and you are keen on crocheting this lovely shawl, then comment below with the word STELLA in your comment, so that I know who is interested in the pattern. So I'm just going to take those comments, those names that use the word STELLA, and draw from those, so that I don't give the pattern to someone who are not interested in the pattern, who's not interested in the pattern. You don't have to use Scheepjes wool, because unfortunately it is imported for us in South Africa, and it's not that it's a bit more expensive, one of the more expensive yarns at the moment for us, because it's imported. So, but there is other options. You can use the, I think they call it flower arts, or any other color changing yarns. I will recommend using a color changing yarn, but I'm sure you can create the same effect with minis. The thing is just that your two color changing yarns must not overlap in color, so they must have different colors. They must be different, they must be quite contrasting, if that is the correct way to say it. Otherwise you will lose the contrast. When you are somewhere in the shawl, you will lose the contrast. So there's no same colors in these two, the two that I used. Okay, so that is the Stella shawl, and if you're interested in the I think someone mentioned that you shouldn't use those words, exact words, giveaway or prize in the comments or in the description of the video anywhere, because that draws some funny comments and I don't know. So I'm going to try and not say it and not put it anywhere in my in the description box. I will just say that I will gift a Stella shawl pattern to someone, and well, I'm saying it now. So you can just use the word, don't use the word giveaway or whatever. And then I also finished another shawl, crochet shawl, 2 crochet shawls finished, and they are both big. And this one is the Tropical Sunset, and I haven't started it the last time I did a episode, and I didn't show it to you. So this is the Tropical Sunset by Mariana Muller. She's Sweet Crochet Dreams on Instagram. It's big, or should I say long. And because this is not, how can I say it? This is not a shawl that has to cover my body. So I might do something different with it. See, this is what I don't really like. I don't like this massive amount of fabric in front. So I will try and do something different with it. Maybe put it off center. And I'm not sure. I haven't practiced this. Not at all. Nothing practiced. But I'm sure there's different ways. I will have to figure it out a little bit. Maybe put that one there, that one there. This is maybe much better for me. It's not too heavy in the front. I think it's got maybe something to do with the fact that we don't have such cold winters. So I don't wear big jackets and coats in winter, where you just need something in the front to keep you warm. The shawl must be more of a scarf, or it must be instead of a jacket or a coat. So that is probably the thing, yeah. So what am I doing now? What about this? So the biggest, widest part of the shawl is not bundled up here. I think that is what I don't like personally. That's just my personal taste. But something like this might work. And then you can see all the colors. So I used, the pattern calls for 2 strands of merino lace singles. I know a lot of people don't buy lace singles because they say it's too thin to use as a single strand, but for marling it's perfect. It's not, it doesn't make the fabric that you create too thick and uncomfortable. So to marl with, I like to use lace. And I've never used lace on its own as a single thread, and I don't think I ever will. But holding a double, it creates, I think I've mentioned before that it's my favorite base to work with actually, is 2 strands of lace singles held double. I don't know if you are saying it, if it's saying it wrong. I'm always wondering about holding it together or holding a double, but merino lace singles held double. I think that's how you are supposed, not 2 strands held double. That sounds to me like it has to be 4 then. So merino lace singles held double. I love, and combined with this, the linen stitch, that is just my favorite crochet fabric, I think. And not the fabric and the process, that's the word I was looking for. I think it's also my favorite process. Just 1 second. Okay, so I've draped it again a little bit. Yes, I like how you can see all the colors coming together when wearing it like this way. Okay, so I said that this is my favorite process and my favorite fabric in crochet is merino lace singles held double and in linen stitch, and this is what this is. And all the yarn is from my stash, so I just played around with the colors, starting with light colors and then going darker and darker. And as you can see, it's very drapey because you use I think the pattern calls for a 4.5mm hook. I use the 4mm because, as I said, I'm not a tight crocheter, and I find the 4mm worked well for me. And when I soaked it and I didn't block it aggressively, it opened up quite a lot. So I like the fabric that was created, and it's very drapey and soft. There's quite a few sizes. You can stop at, I think she calls it, you can use up 3 skeins or 4 or 5 or 6 skeins. So the 6 skein one is very big. You can just imagine how big it will be. I stopped at the 4 skein size because I wanted to end with this dark color, and I used all of it. I used all of this dark color. So I just continued with the, because it's created with long rows and short rows. So I just ended with, I just kept going with the long rows until my yarn was used up. I just left enough to just do a very small picot edging. She's got a different edging, but this is my go-to. It's barely there. And what I did is, because it's a linen stitch, I did a in the one chain space I did a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and then in the next chain space I just did a single crochet, and then in the next one single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and in the next one just a single crochet. So it's like a very small picot edging. That's the edging that I use for everything. So I love it. It's very drapey and very soft, and it's 100% merino. I suppose you can do it in cotton as well. I know in South Africa we've got a dyer, Colourspun, Donna Biddle from Colourspun. She makes a merino, a cotton lace. So I think you can use 2 strands of that cotton lace, and that will also, I think, work. I'm not sure, but I think it will. But that's why I'm mostly drawn by patterns that I know I've got all the yarn or most of the yarn. The STELLA shawl I saw in March when we went to the yarn retreat in Noordhoek in the Cape Province. That was organized by Isabel, the lovely Isabel. That's now my friend, that I can now call my friend. She organized the yarn retreat, and that's where I met Julme, and she had the STELLA shawl there, and I know the other friend Natasha that was also there, she had her sample of the STELLA shawl there, and I used it quite a few times during the retreat, and that's when I knew I had to make it. And I did have the one wool, so I just had to buy the other one. And this, I immediately bought this pattern when it was released last year by Mariana, because I saw it was marling, and I just thought that it would be a very nice project to do. And I do have a lot of lace that I only use for marling, and I would love to knit this exact pattern. I'm going to try and see if I can knit something like this. So there it is, and it's very soft and drapey, and I just love the colors. And on Instagram we have a crochet along at the moment for Mariana Muller's patterns, and it's not too late for you to go over on Instagram and use the hashtag sweetcrochetdreamscal, CAL. I will also put that down below, and use that hashtag on Instagram. And then on the 31st of December, Mariana, we will pick 3 numbers from all the posts. We will pick 3 posts from different people from the hashtag on Instagram, and Mariana is so kind, she is gifting 3 she will give 3 people each a pattern of their choice. So that is very generous of her. Thank you, Mariana, for doing that. So and you don't have to finish, just use the hashtag, and the more times you use the hashtag, the more times the better your chance will be of your name being drawn for one of her patterns. So that will be very nice, and that will be on the 31st of December. So what I was thinking while I'm at it, it was not supposed to be all in one episode because I was supposed to be doing an episode in October, and I completely missed October. So I will gift someone the tropical sunset shawl pattern as well. So if you are interested in be in the draw for the Tropical Sunset Shawl, please use that word in the comments below. And if you are interested in winning both the patterns, I won't, if I draw your name for, say, for example, for the STELLA shawl, and I draw it again for the Tropical Sunset, I will put it aside, if you don't mind, and draw another name for the Tropical Sunset. But you are allowed to use both words, and then I will put you in the draw for the STELLA shawl and in the draw for the Tropical Sunset shawl. So this is just my way of spreading the love and give someone the opportunity to maybe make this pattern. You don't have to finish it before the 31st of October. Just use the hashtag as often as you like. Because this is really a lovely pattern. You don't have to make it so big. I've seen that Mincy from Knottyhabit yesterday at the Stoepmark. She had beautiful, beautiful lace and in 50-gram skeins. Beautiful colors. I was so tempted, but I just kept myself together and I didn't buy more because I do have a lot of lace. But beautiful colors, and you can make a beautiful Tropical Sunset out of those colors. And I'm sure she will upload it all onto her website after yesterday's Stoepmark. So maybe just wait a day or two and then go and have a look on her website for the merino lace singles. And with 300 grams, so you can buy 6 different colors and just do it a little bit differently than is asked for in the pattern, and make a beautiful fade with the colors, or ask Mincy to put some colors together for you. And a 3-color one is already a generous size, and then a 4-color one is the one that I made, and that is quite big. So if you've got 8 50-gram skeins, you can make a beautiful, beautiful Tropical Sunset. So I will then have a draw for the STELLA shawl and for the Tropical Sunset shawl. And I will probably do it the same way that I've done it for my previous giveaway, because I knew that I'm not going to podcast soon or record an episode soon. So I draw the winners, and then I let them know, and I've put it in the community tab. So you can always, I will probably do that again, so that if you want to participate in the crochet along, the Sweet Crochet Dreams crochet along, then it will give you some time. If maybe you are waiting to see if you're going to be the winner of this pattern, then I will do that soon. I think I will, let's say, what about in a week's time? Let me draw for the STELLA and for the Tropical Sunset in a week's time. So that gives you some time to start the Tropical Sunset and still be in the draw on Instagram for one of Mariana's other patterns. Or if you are looking for a nice relaxing holiday project, both of them I think is perfect for a relaxing, mindless holiday December project. So I think I will then give, just maybe after a week's time, I will have the draw for those 2 patterns. Okay, so I think that's everything. So I saw the original when we had the yarn retreat again in October, and Mariana was there and she had the original there, and Julme was wearing it all the time, and it was just beautiful. And I started mine just before we went on the yarn retreat, so that if there's something that I wasn't sure of, that I can ask Mariana. But the pattern is very well written and very clear. And I think I've showed this enough, but I just can't get enough of it. I can't get enough of showing it off, because the marling is just lovely, lovely, lovely. So it's from different dyers. I can't even tell you, because most of these were all already partial skeins that were wound in balls. So I just put some of them together and knew I wanted to go from light to dark and in a fade kind of way. So there wasn't any labels on them. I can't remember when I bought them. So it's just different from different dyers, and I just love it. So I think I've shown this long enough and talked about it long enough. I hope it wasn't too long, because that you are bored by now. So I've just got one other finished project that I have to show you, and then I think I will have to end this episode here and maybe do a new episode with my works in progress. I think that's what I will do. I will do another episode with my works in progress. This is the logcabin crochet logcabin blanket that I have shown you the squares in my previous episode. I've decided that I want to finish this, and I did one square each day, and that worked out quite well. I've got, at the end, I managed to get 30 squares out of the yarn that I had. I'm not sure if I will be able to show the whole blanket. It's not small. And I think the colors that you have seen there is quite accurate. That is the colors, I think. I'm very happy with this. I've weighed it. It weighs 1.1 kilogram. So that's the amount of yarn that I've busted for this project, and I'm very happy with that. As I said, all the yarns came from my stash except for 200 grams, one full skein and 2 skeins that I shared with my friend that's also planning on making this in the future somewhere, from Knottyhabit. So most of the yarns are from Knottyhabit that was in my stash, and then there's some leftovers from Oneofakind Yarns and Indiebelle fibres. She doesn't dye anymore. And then I used a navy or blue from Indiebelle fibres out of my stash for the join. And I've shown this on my Facebook page. I did make a little video of while I was joining it, but I've mentioned before, I always use the PLT join by Rachel from Cypresstextiles. It just creates this beautiful braided effect. I don't know if I can show it properly here. And for that, you have to take your hook out of the loop on your hook. Take your hook out of that loop and then pull it through. put it, so she's got a very clear tutorial on this. I will try and link that as well. And I did it continuously. So I didn't have 2 extra ends to work in for every square. So I did all 30 the squares, 5 by, arranged them in 5 by 6, and then started joining row by row but continuously, and that works wonderfully. I can't recommend that enough. So it's called the PLT single crochet continuous join as you go. And it's I think the tutorial for that she also already made in 2015, so that was a long time ago, and I use it all the time. But I did do it a little bit differently, because the way she shows it is for single crochets. So you join in every stitch. But because I had linen stitch, I did my round that I did around the square with the blue, I also did in linen stitch. So I had a single crochet and a chain. So I joined the same way. So I did a single crochet, chain 1, and then pull the loop through the square that I'm joining to, and then did a single crochet, chain 1. So on my Facebook, and I think on Instagram as well, I showed a little video of how I'm doing that. And I'm very happy with that. And I really used a lot of yarn. Or, you know, I used the yarns that I had. I really don't have, I used every last bit. I think this is my leftovers of of the yarns that I used. I've got 2 partial skeins that in the very light speckled color, in I think this yeah, this, let's see, yeah, this brown rusty color, and this the pink speckles. I had 2 skeins of each of them, so I finished 1 skein of each, and then I had to wind the other 2 skeins, but I didn't completely use them for this blanket, so I put them back into my stash, but the rest I really used everything. And this is the color that I joined with, just a very nice blue that I had. I think I had 3 skeins in my stash of this. She was called Bar, and then she changed her name to Indiebelle Fibres, but she doesn't dye yarn anymore. I think this is the blue, this is the correct color. And I used less than 2 skeins to join the squares, and then I just did 1 extra round of linen stitch around the whole blanket, and then I did a round of slip stitches. I used a 4mm throughout, and then for this very last round that I just did slip stitches, I used a 3.75. So it's a very, very simple edging. I didn't want something, I don't do fancy borders anymore, because for me the focus must be all on the squares. So I just feel that the simple join and the simple edging just complements the whole look of the blanket. Yeah, so there is pictures on Facebook and Instagram. I always say below where you can find me. I've got my Facebook page is also Yarn Creations, and then I'm Adela_Yarn Creations on Instagram. Well, hopefully I haven't forget something very important to show you. The last thing that's in my little basket that that I forgot to show you is what I had left for my STELLA shawl. This is what I had left of the 2 full wool Scheepjes wools. So I think I did well. I just kept going. I didn't want to stop, so I just kept going. So please comment, and thank you very much. I also wanted to say thank you so much for all your very kind comments on my previous episode. I didn't reply on them because I wasn't sure how it will work for the draws for the giveaway that I had, but I did like all the comments. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your comments and your feedback. And most of you said that you don't mind the long episodes. If you can't watch it all in one go, then you will come back later to finish. And I also find that if I sit down to crochet or knit or craft, it will usually be for an hour or hour and a half maximum before I know I have to get up and walk around and do something in the house again. So it doesn't bother me that much to watch a longer episode, and most of you said that it doesn't bother you at all. So I didn't expect to talk for more than an hour on just my finished objects. But I guess if you don't podcast that often, and it seems that that will be my pattern for the future, then you have a lot to show. So that was all my finished objects or completed projects in the 2 months since my last episode. So thank you so much for watching, and I really hope that this episode is okay, because it will be a thing to do it all over again. And I will see you very soon then for an episode on my works in progress. Goodbye.